The Supreme Court has heard the case. The President has reviewed the mercy plea. It has been rejected. The three convicts accused and convicted of having assassinated Rajiv Gandhi were to hang. But now there's politics taking place. It's a political dance with death. Should political parties in Tamil Nadu be stirring emotions in what is a purely judicial matter? Joining us, a very high-profile panel. I want to begin by introducing Soli Sorabji, former Solicitor General of India. With us also at this time is Vaiko, President of the MDMK. He's also the counsel on record of one of the accused, Perari Vallan, and this is the one person who's accused of purchasing batteries, and Mr. Vaiko feels that just because of that one crime, Perari Vallan should not be hanged. With us also at this time is Manishankar Iyer, Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha. With me in the studio is Subramanian Swamy, President of the Janata Party, and Vaigai is the counsel for Santan, one of the convicted people. I want to begin by asking Mr. Vaiko this question. Mr. Vaiko, do you think that political parties in Tamil Nadu, and you included, are just doing politics over this matter? Here is a case where the mercy petition has been rejected by the President. Let the courts do its own job. Why are you whipping up Tamil sentiment on this issue, Mr. Vaiko?
I do not agree that political parties have played a role whipping up Tamil sentiments. Here is a case where three Tamil youths who have languished for more than 20 years in the jail and undergone unbearable agony and mental pain under the shadow of the gallows for more than 11 years. On 26th April 2000, they submitted the mercy petition to His Excellency the President of India through the state government of Tamil Nadu. So 11 years have passed. Throughout the world, 137 countries have abolished death penalty. And a condemned prisoner who is facing the hangman's noose is facing the death penalty every minute. As Mr. Jetpalani clearly submitted before the Madras High Court, that hanging could be accomplished within 30 seconds. But 10,000 times the death pain they have to undergo. So therefore, in Europe, all the countries have abolished the death penalty. But
Mr. Vaiko, the debate here is not about how many countries have abolished the death penalty. The debate is about political parties interfering in judicial process. As per the constitution of the country, once the President has turned down the mercy plea, that is final. Why are we seeing resolutions being passed in the Tamil Nadu Assembly, political parties, orchestrating this show of emotion on the streets? This is about a judicial case. The evidence on record has been examined by the Supreme Court. It has found these three people guilty. Let the law do its course.
Political parties do not interfere in the process of the judiciary. There are so many cases where the mercy petition has been rejected by the President and where the Supreme Court gave the verdict of death penalty, and subsequently mercy petitions were rejected by the President. In such cases, on the basis of the delay for years, death sentence was commuted. Those cases were cited by the lawyers in the Madras High Court. Therefore, the resolution adopted in the Tamil Nadu Assembly expresses the sentiments of 75 million of Tamils.
Let me go across to Mr. Soli Sorabji. You are saying that the resolution in the Tamil Nadu Assembly reflects the view of people in Tamil Nadu. Mr. Sorabji, it is a fact that it's been 11 years since the mercy petition was filed, and Vaiko making the case that every moment when they're in custody, when they know they have to die, is a moment of death. Does that really hold as an argument, or do you believe that politicians should not indulge in this game of politics, in this dance with politics, and death should stop?
I don't want to say about politicians indulging or not. In this case, Supreme Court has upheld the sentence, so there's no question of going beyond that and say they are not guilty. The real point is, if you keep a person on a death row for inordinately long time, to which he has not contributed, then the court has taken the view that the death sentence is commuted to life. In other words, you must dispose of the mercy petition, or the court didn't fix up any time, first is 3 months, then 9 months. They said that utmost expedition depending on the facts of the case. Now, prima facie, 11 years seems to be an inordinate time. And during that time, the man is under tremendous stress, mental stress, emotional stress, which according to the court amounts to infliction, unusual, cruel punishment. Consequences, the death sentence gets commuted to life sentence. Of course, if the delay has been occasioned by any acts of the convicts, that's a different matter. That the court will examine. But it is a well-established principle of law that the inordinate delay on the death row would result in commutation of the sentence of death into life imprisonment, and that's what the court is examining. Let's keep politics out of it. There's a clear legal issue.
Can the courts intervene in this case? After the President has rejected the mercy petition, are there past precedents as well? Is it okay for the courts to intervene? Because Subramanian Swamy says this is not constitutional. Mr. Swamy, you want to make the point before we go across?
I am saying that there is a 1990 judgment which says that once a mercy petition is rejected, another mercy petition cannot be granted. On that basis, a stay cannot be granted against the execution. That's what I said it was. They would have to, in fact, if they wanted to argue it afresh, they would have to argue before 9th of September, which was the date fixed for the hanging. This granting of 8 weeks of stay is totally illegal, and I think it should be appealed against in the Supreme Court.
Mr. Surabji?
Actually, the question is not the court intervening about the rejection of the mercy petition. Court can't go into it, whether it was rightly rejected or wrongly rejected. The question is the time taken for disposal of the mercy petition. And there is more than one judgment. If there is inordinate delay, then the death sentence gets commuted to life. Now, as I said, it has to be found out, was the delay occasioned by the convicts? Did they go on making representations? Did they obtain a stay? That will depend. So court will examine. And prima facie, the court has found, as it was entitled to, that 11 years is inordinately long period.
Mr. Manishankar Iyer, can you explain the delay on the part of your government? I have been able to access through RTI this document that shows when the Ministry of Home Affairs sent this file to the President, because the case has been made that it's the President who's been sitting on the file. That isn't the case. This document shows that on the 14th of March 2011, that's when the case of these 3 people was sent to the President. So far, it is your government and the Ministry of Home Affairs that's been sitting on this file. So why is the delay being caused by your government, Mr. Iyer?
I think you ought to appreciate that there is a logic to delaying the execution of a death sentence even after it's passed. It is to see whether any corroborative or other evidence comes up that indicates grounds for a mercy petition to be accepted. And I think it would be very unfortunate if we had a lynch mob come and kill somebody immediately who has been sentenced to death. There are legal procedures. Now, the Supreme Court, I understand, has said that the death penalty should be executed within a reasonable period of time. Now, whether a reasonable period of time is 11 days, 11 weeks, 11 months or 11 years is not for a person like me who's not a jurist to say. But I understand the matter is going to be agitated before the courts, and I would leave it to the courts to
Dr. Swamy, is it okay for the government to delay a decision for 11 years?
Well, let me say first thing.
Yes.
Who's on?
Yes, go on.
Rahul?
Dr. Swamy. Yes, I'm just coming. Just one by one.
Something.
Yes, just one by one. On that same question, I'll take everybody's view.
I would like to say, if I'm on the program, I should have said.
Yes, sir, please.
I would like to say, first of all, that this 11-year delay question that is being made much of by both Mr. Vaiko and Mr. Jethmalani. First of all, the 5 years of that, Jethmalani was a minister of the government, and he now turns around and argues that there's been an inordinate delay. Mr. Vaiko was not only part of the NDA government, but he was also of UPA 1. Now, they are totally hypocritical today to talk about the delay. Number two, let me say that the Supreme Court judgments, if any of them have read it, do not make delay the sole criterion. They go into the question whether it was a premeditated murder, whether it was a conspiracy, whether it was directed against the state. Here, the three convicts, two of them are not even Indians. They are Sri Lankan terrorists. They are members of the LTT. The third one worked for them, which is even as bad. And these three today, when they did carried it out, they said in the court, and the court has recorded it, Justice Kadri has gone to great detail to record this. They said they wanted to teach Rajiv Gandhi a lesson for sending the IPKF to Sri Lanka. Now, Rajiv Gandhi sent the IPKF to Sri Lanka because there was a resolution of parliament. You can't make a prime minister personally responsible for any policy. If that happens, then no government can function. So these are not ordinary convicts facing the death row. They are criminals, they are terrorists. They killed a person without any personal reason for it. They killed because they wanted to teach him a lesson and bring the prestige of India and the sovereignty of India to be compromised in the process. So therefore, this delay cannot be looked at in isolation. It has to be looked at, as the Supreme Court has said in its decision, on other aspects. And all these other aspects, these three must be sent to the gallows. As far as the fourth one is concerned, Nalini, she has been illegally given life imprisonment. That can be agitated later on in the court.
Okay, Mr. Vaiko, you want to respond to that? This, after all, concerns the assassination of the Indian Prime Minister. And now we might see a situation, because it suits parties politically, they're agitating, and these people might not end up hanging, even though they killed India's Prime Minister. And that's something people find very strange, sir.
You cannot whip up the sentiments using that a former Prime Minister has been assassinated. Even Justice Thomas, His Lordship, has stated a crime against an individual, not against the country. Moreover, they rejected the TADA Act, which was thrown into the dustbin. But in this case, I don't want to go into the merits of the judiciary. I cannot. But the whole case was built up on the basis of the inquiries made, confessions got under TADA Act. And these four persons were innocent. Just imagine, 26 persons were given death sentence by the TADA court. Of them, 19 were acquitted by the Supreme Court. 19, yes.
They were not acquitted. They had served their term. They had served their term in jail, and therefore whatever was to be awarded to them, they had served their term. They were not acquitted.
The point, Mr. Swamy,
they were not acquitted. Don't mislead the public.
That is the problem. No, I don't mislead.
Of course you are. They were not acquitted.
Capital punishment.
They were not acquitted.
They were given the death sentence.
Yes.
They were given the death sentence. They were released.
Yes.
They were given the death sentence.
They served their term of the crime that they were convicted for.
Justice Thomas stated that some of the facts which are taken into consideration, it was built-up case, fabricated, the whole thing.
No, but that's something, you're again calling it fabricated. Mr. Sorabji, this is where the argument gets diffused. We're seeing the Tamil parties call the case fabricated. They're saying that there's evidence. Those are matters that have been examined by the Supreme Court. Mr. Sorabji.
Is the finding.
What happened to MDMA, whether it has finally submitted the report?
Rahul, I've studied the judgment. Let me tell you what is the finding of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has found
one by one.
Without going into the question.
Too many people speaking.
Yes, Mrs. Vagai,
without going into the question whether evidence was fabricated, whether people were afforded proper opportunity, etc., etc. Let us just look at the findings of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court says this is not a disruptive act. This is not a terrorist act. That was the finding of the Supreme Court.
Yes.
All the accused were absolved of the allegations under the Tada crime.
Yeah.
Therefore,
But
let us not drag in the question that it was an offence against the state. The Supreme Court's finding was specifically that it was an individualized crime addressed against Mr. Rajiv Gandhi and none else. It was not to strike terror against the government of India or the Indian polity as such. Therefore, Mr. Swamy says the Supreme Court's judgment is final. Let us proceed on that basis. The findings of the Supreme Court are that this is individualized crime. But in fact, one of the factors that the mercy petition should be addressed when it is being considered by the President is whether it was an individualized crime. Now, we don't know whether it has been considered by the President or not. But nevertheless, delay by itself is an anathema to execution of death penalty at a distance of time is what the Supreme Court said. And consistently there are several judgments.
But Mr. Sorabji, when we hear Mr. Waiko say that the charges were fabricated, a draconian law was used, one of the accused only bought a battery and that's not good enough for him to be hanged, are we not really, just going against what the Supreme Court has said, Mr. Sorabji? Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
We can't go into that.
Yes.
The Supreme Court judgment has attained finality. And that is the reason Supreme Court said this is not those cases, rarest of rare. And they have awarded death penalty. The review was dismissed. That chapter is closed. You can't go on questioning the findings of the Supreme Court. The only question is, again I repeat, why did you put him on the death row for such a long period? Because that amounts to infliction of unusual punishment and that results in death sentence being commuted. That's all.
So let me ask you this question, Mr. Sorabji. Do you not think that it is time that the government make up its mind on the death punishment? If they want to give capital punishment to people, it must be executed fast and within a reasonable time frame. This whole process of delaying the death penalty just adds to so much chaos, confusion, whips up emotion.
Do you know what the Supreme Court has said? We can't lay down any time limit, 3 months, 6 months, but it must be with utmost expedition because you can't keep a man on the death row and subject him to trauma, emotional and mental trauma and stress. What is utmost expedition? It depends again on the facts of the case. The High Court is examining it. Not the merits of the conviction.
Oh, absolutely.
Not the Jati convicted or not. That stage has passed.
Mr. Waiko, that stage is past.
When I was Attorney General, I was Attorney General, I remember requests used to come to me, please give the opinion. Because after it's not the President, it's the central government that advises. Do it early. We used to give it early. I don't know why it should take so long. What is this system of saying he's number 1 in the queue and Robert is number 12 in the queue? I don't understand this. You must find a way of disposing of the mercy petitions within reasonable time.
Mr. Waiko, you're not trying to reopen the whole case, whether the evidence is strong enough, one battery bought, is that enough to convict? Those are matters that the Supreme Court has looked at. It has found these people guilty, period. That decision is final.
Correct.
Because my friends referred about the crime and they accused these persons about the involvement of the crime. I wanted to bring to the notice that the whole investigation was done under Tada Act. Now, the only question before us, there is an inordinate delay for 11 long years under the death shadow. This is more than death penalty at all. Therefore, it is degrading and inhuman, as it has been stated by many juries.
Okay, then let me put this question to Mr. Iyer. Mr. Iyer, you said we must ask the Ministry of Home Affairs. Mr. Iyer, you said we must ask the Ministry of Home Affairs. But do you not think that delaying this case for 11 years is not okay, and the government, if a decision has been taken, must make up its mind fast? This is not okay to delay the case for 11 years, sir.
What do you mean by fast? I ask you, Rahul, is 11 days fast? Is 11 weeks fast? Is 11 months fast? Is 11 years too long? The courts have said that we should make up our minds and dispose of these matters as quickly as possible, but have specifically said that they cannot prescribe a time limit. Now, I think it is cruel and inhuman to keep someone on death row for 11 years. But I think it's equally cruel and inhuman to shoot dead, to blow up a 47-year-old boy. Why did they do it? There is no doubt at all that the Supreme Court has concluded that all these three people are guilty of a heinous crime amounting to a crime that is among the rarest of the rare. My plea is that the sentence that should be given on a rarest of the rare case is not the death penalty, because that is a cruel and inhuman thing to do. I think it should be imprisonment for the whole of the natural life of the person concerned.
No, but there again, that's a different debate altogether. There again, that's a different debate.
It may be
that's a completely different debate, Mr. Iyer.
It may be a different debate, but that is the only grounds on which I am participating in your debate.
But is it not the wrong time to be having that debate, Mr. Swamy?
Of course, but he has excused himself, Mr. Manishankar. Here he says, I am not part of this debate if the main issue of the policy issue of death sentence is not there. Now the question is, the inordinate delay only applies in somebody these murder cases of passion, revenge, etc. Here it's a cold-blooded conspiracy against the Prime Minister of India for sending the IPKF. We can't overlook it. They are terrorists. There's no question of any agony for them being on the death row. These are hardened criminals, and two of them are foreigners. And I think, therefore, there should be no notice taken of the so-called delay, of which Mr. Jethmalani and Mr. Vaiko are more responsible than anybody else.
All right, opinion is strongly divided. We've heard from a cross-section of experts.
May I say this?
I'm out of time. Mrs. Vagai, very quickly, please. Yes.
What Mr. Swamy says is not right. Yes, because it was in the assassination of Pratap Singh Kairon, former Chief Minister of the Punjab and Haryana, the Supreme Court set aside a death sentence in the Senate. It said it cannot be executed on a delay of 2 years. Therefore, it is not merely in cases of murders related to passion, etc., that the Supreme Court has interfered. It has interfered even in cases of political crime.
Well, this is a very...
you want me to go into the... there's no time for me to go into the Pratap Singh Kairon. She's partially quoted it. But anyway, that could be another...
It's a very divisive issue.
Of course.
We leave it to people to decide where they stand. Yes, Mr. Surabji, I want you to have the final word. Go on, sir.
Rahul, I just want to tell Dr. Subramanian Swamy that I agree these people really deserve no mercy. They were really hard. I mean, they wanted to kill our Prime Minister. I know the effect. But even people of that kind cannot be placed on the death row for an indefinite period. That's the point. Because terrorists, this, that, rest of it, they got the maximum punishment, capital punishment. But even people should not be kept on a death row for an inordinate period. Now, whether it was inordinate, I repeat, the court will go into it.
But even you would admit, Mr. Surabji, that what we need to ensure is that politicians stay out of this. Let this be about the judiciary. Let the politicians stay out of this political game over death. That's not okay. Let's not whip up passions. Let the court do its job, Mr. Surabji.
That's correct, but politicians are politicians.
And that's unfortunate, because that's what this is becoming, a political game. Because we saw Jayalalitha say, I can't do anything about it, the matter is in court. Yesterday, 24 hours later, we see the Tamil Nadu Assembly pass a resolution which says that clemency should be granted. Whether or not this is politics over death, we leave it to our viewers to decide. But as Mr. Surabji says, the court must do its job and the government must not take so much time. Thank you very much.